So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to you Ken Lloyd. Now, Ken had a near-death experience, and when this occurred to him, his soul braid event happened not just once, but 13 times. He, at one time, brought in 13 soul braided parts. He's a multidimensional traveler, energetic healer. He's a light language channeler, a master activator, a galactic liaison, a quantum blueprint technician, and is constantly demonstrating the healing of those that are in close proximity to him. So, Ken, welcome. I am excited that you're here, and I can't wait to hear what you have to share.
Thanks, Sheila. Is my voice okay?
Your voice is perfect.
Excellent. So, thank you. I'm very appreciative of the Conscious Awakening Network and this whole walk-in series. And today I'm just going to share my story. While, 13 came in at one time, it was very, very subtle. So let me just kind of explain. So 13, near-death experience. Now, each of the 13 bring a unique gift or skill set to my current reality. But at a very core level, these soul aspects, if you will, the soul aspects, they've modified my physical body to hold these ultra high frequencies. But I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. And just the legal thing here, to be clear, I'm not a doctor and I don't diagnose or treat any condition. I simply move energy, which allows you to heal. So again, my walk-in experience, it was very, very subtle, evolving over 6 years. At the time, I was a self-educated cybersecurity entrepreneur. I had created 3 successful companies, all exiting. Over a period of those 25 years. My background was no spirituality, no religion, had no idea any of these things existed. In 2018, I was going through the last acquisition with the business partner who put me under heavy pressure for 7 straight years. They say a pressure creates diamonds, not so much with me. So in fact, a year prior to that, I was diagnosed with a pituitary tumor that continued to grow and would eventually require brain surgery. Later, this was biopsied as a cortisol tumor wrapped in a cortisol cyst, something the University of Miami hadn't seen before. Ultimately, a direct result of persistent, endless stress. I wasn't sleeping. My employees were in Europe. My partner was in California. And I lived on energy drinks and prescribed ADHD medicine. I'd get up at 4 a.m. and wait outside the convenience store just to get the drink. I was that guy. So to continue to put this into further situation, more context, as the founder and CTO, I resigned 6 weeks prior to my acquisition. I couldn't take it anymore. Physically, emotionally, mentally, I couldn't tolerate it. I was spent. Now, interesting enough, during the peak of all this, my deceased mother and my wife's deceased father started talking to me. Nothing like that had ever occurred. And this lasted for about 3 weeks. And looking back, I remembered I never asked any interesting questions. I wish I would have. That being said, I really don't remember what triggered me on the day of my near-death experience, but I recall I was angry, almost in a rage. And I remember laying on my back in bed, my fists were clenched, and I just kept asking for it to stop. Specifically, the acquisition, the business, and especially the partner. I needed it gone. And then for 2 minutes, I had intense energy enter my body, and they forced my back into an arch with my stomach in the air. It almost felt like a perfect U shape. I was locked in this position, and then I felt something very heavy leave my body in the area of my stomach. I passed out. So when I woke up, no miraculous healings, no visit to the other side. In fact, no stories at all. There was almost no clue something had happened, except I had a strange peace come over me, and my relatives no longer talked to me. Now, it took me 3 years to learn that during this moment, my soul had a choice to stay or leave. And I was experiencing what many people do just before they pass away. You see this a lot in nursing homes when the person starts talking to the people that are no longer in the room. Well, what happened instead is that during those 2 minutes, my root chakra was removed. And all of my trauma from birth up to that moment was also removed. That was necessary to make room for the 13 soul assets me to step in. To be clear, I still had ongoing trauma from the acquisition and health conditions I needed to deal with, but this new sense of calmness allowed me to navigate with my heart rather than my head. And that's something I'd never done before. I was built on the left brain, period. So The change that happened was so powerful to me that it turned off my left brain. And the 25 years I had spent studying and creating and writing patents, I lost all interest in technology. Email was a struggle. So the very thing that made me successful, it was now a burden. It was really, really awkward. But the experience of communicating with a loved one who had passed on stuck with me. Every moment of every day, it occupied my thoughts. I had to have the experience again, and I had done something I never thought I was capable of doing. So I started visiting local psychics and asking what had happened. And then I started asking, how did you do your magic? And what I learned in each of those engagements was almost nothing, just like little breadcrumbs that kept me looking for more answers. So I started reading books, mediumship, psychic abilities, remote viewing, astral projections, anything I could. Nothing was working. I couldn't get that experience back. I tried meditating. That wasn't helping. Completely lost. However, I did learn you needed a clean vessel, a clean body in order to reach the so-called other side. Well, I weaned myself off the ADHD medicine. I quit all the energy drinks and all stimulants to include sugars. And then I began to remove everything in my life that was stressful. I turned off the media. I stopped listening to music. I stopped engaging in any conversation that had polarity aspect to it. I didn't watch or follow any sports, politics. I couldn't watch any movies that had any violence or horror in it. It literally made me sick. It was interesting that when I heard music or watched movies, I was able to tune into the programming. And I don't mean the words that were spoken, but the intent behind the messaging. And what I began to understand was very disturbing. I ate healthier. I even tried going vegan for a year. Not quite me. I did every detox I could. And I spent nearly 8 months doing variations of the heavy metal detox protocol. And I went so far as to have all the metal fillings in my mouth removed. And finally, I actually felt something. I was able to hold the crystal and feel the little vibration in my heart and in my hands. Very cool. So I had read some books at the time on how to do energy healing. And when I read these books, I started trying the techniques out on friends and family for fun. And they reported small results, even if it was just a little headache. Now, in hindsight, during my childhood, I'd always been fascinated by the story of Edna McCauley, who had a near-death experience, and she emerged as a healer. This was sensationalized in the movie The Resurrection from 1980. When this woman touched somebody, they healed. So anyways, as the days and months moved on, I got more serious, and the idea of me being able to do psychic stuff became an obsession. I couldn't let it go. The reading the books was very slow paced for me, so I dropped them and I hired people to teach me everything they could. I signed up for every checkbox on the menu of spirituality gifts. But one of the most important things I discovered was that I could travel multidimensionally in those sessions. When the person told me to visit Mars, I could do that. View inside of a planet, no problem. Another universe, easy peasy. When I did this, I could see ET species, but I had no interaction at the time. It seemed that every challenge presented to me, I was able to do with validation from the trainer. But I got to tell you, I was still 100% confident. My imagination was actually being used and I wasn't doing anything. Keep the guy happy and bring the money in. So I then took Reiki and it opened up my energy channels. And then I took a 6-day intense energy healing course. And to my surprise, I could do every task they asked me. I went ahead and I did the 25 people validation and all 25 of them had results. So I finally had an independent view that something was actually happening. Now, I eventually learned to quiet my mind for 30 seconds. That was it. It was not my cup of tea. So every time I tried to meditate, I find myself going on journeys. So my multidimensional self did not want quiet. It wanted information. And even today, there is no meditation. There is no quiet. I instantly drop in and I go out to whatever I'm going to. So at this time, it was about 2 years exploring this new passion I couldn't shake. Now, I had someone tell me I was a walk-in. I'd never heard that expression before. And even when I read about what a walk-in was, I didn't understand. But the universe, it resonated with me. And ultimately what happened is 2 more people stepped up within a 3-week period and told me the same information. So, at some point you actually begin to understand and believe that they're telling me something I actually needed to be aware of. The stories from friends and families of the healings, they're becoming common, even though, again, I had no confidence I was doing it. I was told I was a master activator by another person. So a master activator is someone who has the ability to bring in new activations or gifts for people that are in service to spirituality, also called light workers. And this happens all the time, actually. If someone shows up in front of me and they're ready, the ETs, the spirit, if you will come down and activate them to whatever they need next. So I wasn't really getting much information. But in the fall of 2020, I could no longer read any books. I couldn't listen to any channels, no messages, no YouTube, no newsletters, nothing. I was completely cut off from all information. I couldn't subscribe to any spiritual process. So December 2020, this is when things started changing. I received my first download, my first interaction with any ET as well. Now, up until this point, there was nothing talking to me. I got those little bits and clues that said, keep moving, but there was never a voice. There was never anything that was solid and concrete I could wrap my mind around. So in this download, I was shown to go into my DNA. So specifically the third run on the ladder. So if you look at your double helix, it's the third row up. And I went into it. And if you could think of that as a straw, and in the middle of it, where I sat, on the left-hand side, there were 4 drum cymbals. So if we know a drummer and they got the metal plates that slap together, well, these were there, but they were vertical. On the right-hand side were also 4 of them. So I got the little message in my head that says, take the one on the left and move it over 3 positions. And I did that. Now, when that happened, everything started vibrating. And the bottom of the straw, or the tunnel, if you will, it dropped down into a pyramid shape that looked like it went to infinity. I could see little lights everywhere like there were cities. But when I lifted my mind or my eyes up, and again, this is in my mind, when I lifted my eyes up, there was a portal in front of me, a tunnel. It was 30 feet long. At the end of that tunnel were 4 incredibly large ETs. They must have been, again, 30, 35 feet tall. No motion. And I wasn't able to communicate with them. But I did receive the message, we're your family. And that was literally it. Several months later, it was revealed to me that these were the Craigs, and I was the 5th ET of that group. It was also revealed at this moment that I had elevated my frequency high enough so that the 17th dimensional Craigs were able to drop low enough to introduce themselves. Now, I didn't get much more information from them, but the very next day, I connected with a friend of mine. And I said, hey, this thing just happened. Can I do yours? And when I went into his DNA number 3, completely different. And then we did his 4 and 5. We went all the way up to his 12 DNA. And every single one of him was a different memory, another activation, an awareness and understanding, introduction to more ETs for him. So that was a very powerful moment in my journey. I had finally done something that wasn't found in a book. Something that was truly my experience. So 3 weeks after that, my body started to experience little pinpricks in my feet. And when I looked at my leg muscles, they would twitch in a very weird way. It wasn't the whole leg muscle. It was just this little spot that would pop in and pop out, like maybe a blood vessel or something. But I would only feel it when I wasn't moving. Now, as time went on, the sensations started growing in my hands and my arms and all of my legs. And right now, these physical sensations, they cover 85% of my body with high intensity. You can think of it as taking a 9-volt battery and sticking it on your tongue. And that's what my body feels. And it feels like this all the way into the bone and about 1.5 inches to 2 inches outside of the body. Now, to be clear, it is beautiful. In fact, I will not move for hours on end, just absorbing and feeling this incredible energy. So what I later found out is my cellular structure in the body has been altered to retain ultra high frequencies. Now, to put this into perspective, when somebody channels information, or typically when they bring in healing energies, the normal situation is information will fly in and fly out, but not for me. When the energies come in, they stay in my body. I'm literally holding all of these frequencies. Now, right now, if you're within 25 feet of me, you will feel these frequencies around you. By spring of 2024, they'll be around 300 feet. And by winter, 12 months from now, it'll be nearly a mile around me. So when somebody is in my field or connected virtually like we are right now, my body is elevating their frequency from 3D to 5D. This is also known as their ascension frequency. Now, this process may take someone an entire lifetime to accomplish, if ever, but it happens within minutes around me. To be clear, this doesn't mean the frequency is permanent for everybody. If you've done the work, you've done the shadow work, and you've removed all the trauma, it'll stay. Otherwise, it'll stay for a few weeks and then begin to drop off. Now, as they're doing the work, I can boost them up every couple of weeks and then bring in these additional frequencies so their lower frequencies, start dropping out, if you will. You could consider this a cheat code for ascension. I'll move you rapidly up. It's your job to stay there, however. Now, in the summer of 2021, I began to own my gifts. I really took this seriously, and I worked on as many people as I could. Now, once I committed, I noticed that every 3 or 4 weeks, the visualizations in my healings would shift. It was as if spirit was sending me groups of people with similar issues so I could learn how to work on them. Now, this was very, very slow at first. Sometimes it would take an entire hour to work on something simple like a muscle spasm in the back. Now, it was revealed to me then that I was a quantum blueprinter, a quantum scientist, a quantum programmer, if you will. And as I learned how to work on different conditions in the background, I was writing code. I was writing quantum code. So this code is stored in my body. Now, these codes are then delivered to those who are in my proximity. So in a session with me, and also when I deliver my group transformational healings over Zoom. Now, to give you an example, last night I did a group event. And when I do these, I will pull somebody out of the audience and say, hey, the easy stuff. Show me somebody's got a back pain, a knee pain, a shoulder pain. And this guy says, I've got a left knee issue. So I worked on his left knee, 3 minutes maybe. Now, I later found out that there was a guy in the back of the room who also had a left knee problem that was also healed. I had written code that was delivered to anybody in the room with the same condition. So Spirit took me through many of these healing experiences. I would have groups of people with brain tumors and cancer, spine conditions, nerve conditions, unexplained, unlabeled pain in the body, shoulders, backs, knees, or ankles, arthritis, organs. It just didn't matter what the issue was. Spirit then moved me into healing past life trauma and ancestral trauma. So that was responsible for the condition. So I can see and heal all other versions of your current existence as well. I think that we label this now as a multiverse, right? Where all versions of us are all existing all at the same time. Well, when those show up, I might see 1,000 different versions of you that also need those same codes. I'm able to do those. Then I found sessions where people were experiencing psychic attacks, black magic attached to them, even jinns. So those who are tormented by somewhat called dark energies were also healed. Again, these started coming in groups so I could write these codes. Then they moved me into repairing DNA, replacing chromosomes. And just 3 weeks ago, they had me going into the chromosome, and now I can see the actual genes that are responsible for the conditions in the body. And they're showing me how to flip these genes and modify them as well. Now, in a session, those sessions continue to evolve every 3 or 4 weeks still. So as I do more sessions, working on the same issue, the visualization, the intuition, the telepathy, the light language channeling gets easier and quicker. Spirit begins to show me shortcuts to get the job done faster. Now, just to give you an understanding of what a session might look like. As soon as I connect to you, I've created sacred geometry bubbles, if you will, to prevent what I call interference in the session. And I put the client in a bubble, I put me in a bubble, and I place a bubble around us. And then I move both of us into a sacred geometry pyramid. And this is where the session begins. So when they show up, I'm talking to their light body. And their light body is telling me what's going on. I can talk to it. I can feel the emotions. I can see through the eyes of the light body. I know exactly what's happening. And then I ask the simple question, show me what I need to know. And I repeat this over and over and over. I get rapid fire images that come in, and often it's an animated scene that takes place. And I'm like a sports announcer, right? I tell the client every single detail is what is being shown to me, what I'm hearing, what I'm sensing, what is being told, all the details. So interesting enough, life blockages will nearly always show up, all right? And I'm able to clear them. Now, things such as financial, relationship, career, personal struggles, everything's on the table. Now, when I clear these energies, the client notices the changes in their life hours after the session. People who no longer serve their highest purpose begin to fade away. New relationships start blooming. And the financial blockages, once removed, allow their abundance to flow. Now, to give you an example, I did a session 2 days ago on a lady who she wasn't making any money, completely dried up. And we removed those blockages. And when she walked out to her car, her sales on her website began to happen. This happens all the time. And usually it's within hours. Now, the client, they can ask me any question about themselves or even a family member. Now, I don't work on somebody without permission. However, I can tap in to somebody and ask the light body a question. Why don't you talk to your mom anymore? And they'll tell me. And the beauty of this is the client finally can come to peace with what's actually happening to that particular person. Now, spirit will also show and tell me why somebody's spiritual gifts are blocked, or they will begin an activation sequence to bring them back online or provide upgrades. I can't tell you how many people have had spiritual gifts that they couldn't handle earlier in their life and they turned them off. And now all of a sudden they want them back on. So this happens all the time. And the activations that come online for them, they are very specific and targeted directly to that person. Now, angels, they always show up. They're incredible and amazing. And they help everyone heal childhood trauma, past life, ancestral energy connections. They help with activations as well. Now, I do have the Christ consciousness frequency in me, and Yeshua, he shows up a lot. And I got to tell you, when he shows up, he's got a very, very straight face. He just smiles just a little bit, but he's so wonderful, so much full of love. Now, blockages, when I take care of these, I'll be showing an animated object or a scene, if you will, and I simply bubble it up, I pull it off the body, and I push it through the wall of the pyramid. And for those who can feel energy move in their body, it's a profound moment for them because they can actually feel me reaching in and pulling the very thing out. And they always tell me, I feel lighter, and they don't understand exactly why. About 30 minutes into the session, I will move into the hologram of the body. Now, the client, I always ask them in the beginning, what things do you want me to work on? I don't need the story. Don't tell me it was a car accident. Don't tell me it was a condition. Just point and tell me where it hurts or what illness or condition needs to be done. All right. Now, I can scan somebody, but I'm like, just tell me what you need done and I'll take care of it. And I'm just going to use the lower back as an example. So if they're telling me the lower back hurts, I'll be shown trapped emotions. Okay. And I will pull that off like a bed sheet, or if you would, rolling up a carpet and literally pulling them off the back. Now, it used to be that I would spend an hour trying to figure out, well, is this a masculine emotion? Is this a feminine emotion? Is this a mom issue or dad issue, whatever it is? I don't need to do any of that anymore. I don't need the stories. And I usually don't share the stories with the client. It's about getting in and doing the work and doing the work. So spirit will show me if it's an ancestral or past life connection. Now, what happens here is that when I get the intuition that it's an ancestral connection, they will show me the scene of what happened to that ancestor. And that ancestor will sit there. The angels will come down and they'll throw 3 halos over the angels. Over the client. three halos over the ancestor, and the ancestor will literally drop the trauma out. And as soon as that happens, the energy connection to the body part of the condition dissolves. They will often feel instant relief, if you will. So very, very cool stuff. So I can see contracts and I can see your soul plan, the things that are preventing your healing. Now, I can break your contracts and your guides will come forward and they will tell me if there's a blockage. They will say, hey, we're going to allow you to heal it, or there's an issue that we can't. But, I'm able to negotiate with the guides a little bit and get them to release. And ultimately, there are times where you can't be healed. The guides, you have put this in place. The guides want you to have that experience, as difficult it might be, but normally that's not the case. When the guides actually release the condition or the requirement of that experience, the healing is instant. It happens immediately for people. Now, the other thing that happens, so in my mind's eye, I can simply wave my hand over the body part. Now, when I do this, the body part disappears. Like if I was looking through the bottom, through the body, like the lower back, I would look through the lower back as if nothing was there, if it was hollow. I wait 3 seconds, and then it begins to rebuild like a 3D printer. Now, what's really happening here is the body or spirit or the energy, if you will, is pulling from the human blueprint, your original blueprint, and it's reconstructing from that. If I'm working on somebody's knee, I'll ask them to stand up and walk around to confirm the healing has taken place. And I repeat that process a few times because I want to know, are there any clicks or pops in the knee? And that'll take 15 seconds for me to remove the clicks and pops. When it comes to an illness that's a genetic condition or perhaps something in the chromosome, I can see all 23 chromosomes. And again, I can wave my hand over them and rebuild it from the client's original blueprint. I had done this once for a client that had extreme allergies, very extreme allergies. And I had removed 3 or 4 different chromosomes and replaced them. And interestingly enough, that was the very first time they showed me that technique. Now, I got a report from that person 2 weeks later. All of her allergies were gone. Her lifetime allergies had disappeared. Now, I want to be very, very clear. I may use the word healing, but I am not healing anybody. I simply have the gift to place the client in a high frequency environment and allow the lower frequencies to disappear. And when this happens, the body will heal itself, often immediately. So I have other gifts as well. So I do have the ability to speak light language. And that suddenly turned on when I was taking a high-speed ferry to Key West to enjoy my day. Now, during the 3-hour trip, I needed something to do. So I listened to a little 6-minute recording that says, turn on your light language. And I did in a very strong way. And I spent the next 2 hours with my hand over my mouth as all of these words came out. So as the light language took hold, it started showing up in every session. I don't know what I was doing, and I didn't know what it was doing. I can't read it, I couldn't write it, and I couldn't even use my intuition. It just poured out of my mouth as my tongue tripped over itself. Now, it was later revealed to me that one of these soul aspects inside of me brought forward this gift. Now, as I had mentioned, every one of the 13 in me have a unique skill set they bring to the table. I don't know what they all are. They haven't revealed everything to me at this time. But this one was a linguist. Again, another version of me. And what they did is they communicated with other species and they delivered codes and information directly to the consciousness of others. At the time of this recording today, I have access to 600 different light languages that comes through at any given time. And it's kind of interesting to see and hear how it comes out. Now, I use the light language to talk to ETs that show up in my session. I use it to deliver healing codes, release heart trauma, and activate others. It's used for everything. It's a fundamental aspect of the transformational healing events where these strong energies come through incredibly fast. So ETs started showing up in my session. I found myself on ships with clients, and the ETs would work on them and even take them to the med beds when needed. Now, interestingly enough, I actually found myself interrupting the ETs working on the clients in the med beds, and they would get a little funny with me. They're like, we got this, we've got this. So today, med beds, we don't use them. I don't use them, and I don't take anybody to the ships. But that was an interesting learning experience. The ET connection I have is a little interesting in the fact that the ETs that are associated with the Galactic Federation efforts, they don't show up. I don't work with the Andromedans or the Arcturians, the Pleiadians, the Orions, and the Sirians, the usual gang. What it was explained to me is that I'm a channel for those ET races that are high dimensional and they cannot reduce their frequency low enough to connect to the 3D or the 4D energies. So I bridge this connection between those that are ready for introductions to the ET family. And in this experience, the client's frequency is adjusted so that they can connect to the newfound friend. Now, I will literally put those two in a room and begin a dialogue or a conversation with them. Now, I don't know who the ET is. Now, I have discernment, but they won't tell me their species name because it's really none of my business at this moment. So in late 2022, my channeling came online. It was very, very slow. And honestly, it was really difficult to allow another energy to come through me. So previously, those who have crossed over would attempt to come into my body, and it was a yucky feeling, meaning that I was full of emotions. My face was a waterfall, and I'm like, yeah, this really isn't for me. So now I just take a message and I relay it. I don't let them to pop in. But because of that experience, no, very, very hesitant. When it did happen, it was 1 or 2 sentences, very, very quick. And it was so subtle, I didn't even know it was a channel. I had to insist. I knew what was going to be said. I didn't want my mouth to speak something I didn't approve of, and I didn't want to be embarrassed. And then slowly over the course of almost a year, I just learned to let the words come out. Now, interesting enough, I wasn't, and I'm still not allowed to channel ascension information, historical information, planetary information, and absolutely no ET information. The channel I get is there for the client who needs information or messages that are 100% for their experience only. My team explained it to me that I'm in lockdown in the sense that I'm not to receive any outside information on any topic. They don't want me to become biased on a certain technology that's coming or choose a particular story of what perhaps may have happened in the past. They explained it to me that if you research the topic of how were the pyramids created, there are dozens and dozens of different channeled messages that say they just appeared from the dimension or built by slaves. Levitation was used, gods did it, and so on and so forth. And they went on to explain that not only is my body holding and sharing those ultra high frequencies and those codes, but right now they're installing a library of knowledge in the cellular structure that'll come online in spring of 2024. They don't want me to be retrained. I think it's just easier for them. So in September this year, there was another shift. I started feeling pressure around my heart when I connected to somebody, like an 8-inch circle. It felt like a brand new muscle that I didn't know existed. But I tell you, I'm pretty sure my heart was open. So it was a little peculiar. And when it happened in my sessions, I started to notice white and red ribbon energy circling the light body of the client. And then it would begin to move in the body in different ways and shapes and forms. Now, I started asking my heart to work on the client. And I would see more and more energy. And I would feel more and more pressure in the chest. For some sessions, I would do absolutely nothing. Just observe this heart's energy, work it in healing, and listen to the client tell me, I can feel this, I can feel that. And they were reporting 100% results when this happened. Now, it was a little slower than the method I used. However, it was also a little more thorough. Now, I really believe that every psychic needs a psychic and every healer needs a healer. It's no different for me. So I recently had a session with the amazing Sheila Seppi, who put this whole event together. I'm incredibly grateful for her introduction. And in this, I asked, what's going on with me? What's this pressure? What's new with this? And the answer they gave blew my mind and the understanding of how healing works. And they flat out said, nobody heals anybody. Nobody has the permission to alter another person. They said, what is happening is that I am raising the frequency up, as I explained earlier. And when I do this, the lower energetic frequencies like trauma and disease, they can't stay in the higher vibration environment. So as an example, when I'm healing the trauma associated with the disease or ailment, what I'm really doing is providing a pathway for those energies to leave the person. I elevate the frequency, and like a Google map route, I show the energies a way out. Now, there's a catch. It's still up to the person to release. Some people are not ready to release the trauma or even the illness despite the session. They may show up, I'm ready, but deep down, they're absolutely not. And this actually explained to me why some clients, the healing didn't take. It would come back a day later, a month later, or 6 months later. They brought it right back in or actually didn't release it. So back to this pressure on my chest. It turns out it wasn't a new muscle that I stumbled on. They said I had raised my frequency high enough that I'm now connected to my etheric heart energy. And they said, very few people have done this. They didn't give me a number and I didn't ask. But they explained that there are 12 and more different energy bodies around the heart, okay? Or around the body, if you will. And each of them have an energetic heart. They said the heart I connected to what was referred now as the heart of the new human. And by having access to this, I have access to the heart energy of every person on the planet. Ironically and quietly, I had never told anybody that I always felt like I was the new human. Not the only type of new human, but the new human. Mind blown. Now, this will continue to accelerate the healing and allow me to connect and work with thousands of people at a single time. This is by design. Now, I've been asked, why me? So I continue to be energetically upgraded with the last upgrade taking place over the summer. And those gifts and ability are about to come online now. I'm sitting here in Sedona, Arizona on an 11/11 going through an upgrade right now that's been lasting for about 12 days. Over the past 14 months, I have been under the radar, holding my events in Sarasota, Florida, where I'm honing my gifts to work on groups. Now, in April 2023, my higher self stepped into my body, and they managed the walk-in aspects of me and treat them more like a collective. Now, to be clear, I have only had a few conversations with the 13. They're very, very quiet. And I struggled with this for the longest time. I wanted to know what they brought to the table, what was their role, and why did they choose to be part of this experience? And I learned I didn't need to know and to just trust in the process. The more I surrendered, the more things happened. I also learned at the time they were me and not other souls. I was a little concerned. I'm like, who are these 13? Do I know them? They're me. I have no memories of past lives. My dreams, they're as boring as possible. And I do not consciously astral travel. And they said I probably never will. It's a distraction. My telepathy and precognition gifts are also showing up now. And interestingly enough, they turned off my ability to feel the energy of others. They disabled it. They said it would be an overload to my system. And also, because I don't have a root chakra, I don't hold new trauma. And when I'm in a session, I have no fear. The only emotion I have is joy and love. Now, again, why me? Why was I chosen to receive all of this? And I explained to people, I was never chosen to do anything. I have complete free will, and I can eject the walk-ins out of my consciousness at any time and return to whatever 3D experience I desire. I'm in 100% control of my experience. And as I tell you this, I'm actually laughing inside because I would never do that. This is just so incredible. So my job through countless past lives and existences is to assist, to bring the new energies, to rapidly assist during the times of great ascension. So I am doing this job right now on Earth. I've done it over and over and over. I have many more gifts that are coming online for the rest of my life. Now, I've seen a few of them, but now I surrendered. I don't need to know. These 13 walk-in aspects of me will eventually leave. 26 more will come in. It was explained to me that this will occur 4 times in my life. And each time this happens, an entirely new set of information, technology, and gifts will be delivered to humanity. So while today this presentation was really about these healing frequencies, it's not the only area that I'll be working on in the near future. In about 2 years, I'll be training others on how to access and use these same gifts. I will be connecting with scientists and heart-based companies to deliver new technologies and solutions that are geared to raise the frequency of humanity. So, Sheila, go ahead and take it away. That's my presentation.
And quite the presentation it was, my friend. Quite the presentation. So how are things going in Sedona?
I found myself on Cathedral Rock this morning at 7:30 in the morning. I got the message, go to the top. I'm like, I don't think I want to do that. So I did. I'm pretty sure I almost went to cardiac arrest 3 times, but I made it. And when I sat down and I dropped in, like they told me to, the ETs came through and they showed me the energy of the vortex coming up, and it was incredible. It was rainbow energy everywhere. And then they took me on a journey. And then they activated me. Sedona is incredible. The event's incredible. Just amazing. I got to tell you, it's 11/11, and synchronicity is just awesome.
Beautiful, beautiful. I have a question here for you. It says, how does one know when they're going through an upgrade? What are the symptoms and experience? Thank you. Love this presentation.
I got to tell you, they're frustrating. Everything goes silent. They're like, you're not talking to me anymore. What's going on? And when I went through the last activation over the summer, it was 4 or 5 months of almost no communication. Now, for me, the real indicator is when I start getting attacked. I will start feeling pains in my body, and that's when I know there's an upgrade happening. But again, every psychic needs a psychic, right? So I have a very close circle of people that I can say, hey, why aren't they talking to me? What's going on? So yeah, I do phone a friend once in a while to ask. It's the hardest thing to ask about me. It's the easiest thing to ask about somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things that I would like for you to share with people is if they themselves would like a session with you, how can they get a hold of you?
So you can go to kenlloydofficial.com and you can book a session there. You can send me an email at ken@kenlloydofficial.com. But really, what I recommend first is do the transformational healing event. And on my website, under the event section, you'll see that I hold these over Zoom twice a month. This is going to give you the boost. I did it last night in person, and it doesn't matter if it's in person, right, or over Zoom. But again, there's a lady there that walked in with chronic body pain, and she was on opioids to handle the pain, and she walked out completely pain-free. Now, in her case, it's not going to last, and I told her why. But for other people, hips, knees, back, tears, if you will. And last night was a 15-minute sample. Later on this week, it's about 45 minutes to an hour, and it's much more intense. But yeah, just look me up on the website. Absolutely available.
Beautiful. And, some people talk about, well, I don't need to meditate, or, I don't really need to slow down. I don't need to spend all that time. What do you say to those people?
You have to follow your own process. A lot of people will meditate because they are looking for a little quiet, right? They are looking to balance those thoughts and to get into their Zen position or, moment. And I totally encourage that. But when you get to that point and you're looking for that next thing, start journeying out. You can leave if you'd like. So that's what I teach people also, is how to connect to your higher self, because we want to make sure that you're getting the right messages when they come in. And then ask, what do I need to know next? And you'll start journeying. You'll start getting information instead of this beautiful colors or quiet. Use your own discretion.
Right. And I'm just wondering, what's it like for you to go to the grocery store? Do people feel your presence? Have you ever noticed that?
I sometimes I do. I had a guy come up and talk to me a couple of weeks ago. I was having another conversation and he knew the other guy, and we had talked for 2 minutes, just a moment, right? It wasn't even a real conversation, but the mutual acquaintance emailed me a week or two later and says, "What'd you do to Greg?" I'm like, "I don't know. I had a conversation." "Greg who?" He says, "Greg got home and he's feeling energy and he's working on his wife, energy healing. He's never done that before. So this is happening." Now, think about it a moment, right? I don't know who those people are that are standing around me. All right. And truthfully, if they can't feel energy, they may not even know it's happening. Their conditions will just start dissipating. So the feedback I get in that situation is pretty minimal.
Got it. All right. So let me see if we have, love this, lots of great positive comments. Let's see if we have anything in the Q&A. I don't. That's a walk-in. Okay, let's go here. All right. One of the things that I would like for you to explain to people, because everybody's walk-in situation is different. And when you had the near-death experience, you had the 13 energies that entered your body. And I know you've talked a little bit about it, but even when we're all telling our stories, we just kind of glaze over it. And I have a feeling that there's probably some people here in the audience that have had energies to come in that that they may have dismissed as something else. Could you describe a little bit about the sensations, or even the lack of sensations, but the awareness that came to you?
It was frustrating for me. It was so very subtle. All Spirit did was just give me this little spark, this little crumb, right? We're going to give you a little experience, and it's up to you to chase it. And I couldn't stop. Those 13 in me were pushing me and pushing me, pushing me. But, the experience itself, it was just another day. Just another day. I was sick, right? I was passing out randomly and, angry, just angry. Like I had never experienced anything through my body before. Absolutely crazy. I was locked in a position for 2 minutes. I couldn't move. So, looking back, just very, very odd, just absolutely out of the ordinary of anything. So, chase it, find out what it was, get those answers, and you're going to be surprised on what you find. So, I know there are a lot of walk-ins, even like you, Sheila, that's a replacement walk-in, right? And you came in, many of others, they know, hey, I'm not the original person, I'm the new person. But in my case, I never left. This is Ken. This is still me. I'm still the CEO, as you may say, right? Of me, and I'm still in charge. So, it was just so trickle, trickle, trickle. You just have to keep pursuing it.
And I think that's what is so great about this conference, because some people, they just have bam, and it was just this huge experience. And other people's, like Gosha was describing earlier, how she came in and kind of hung out for, a couple days, and then she integrated and the other soul left. And another lady was talking very similarly about that last night. And even to the point that Zion said that, she really missed having that person around, having that kind of having that friend. And so we all have these, different types of experiences. And I hope you're going to be able to stick around for the panel tonight. Okay,
Yes.
great. Because I'm sure we've got some great questions for that. But what I'd like to do right now is see if you have any final comments to leave with people. Is there anything that you would like them to know that maybe I didn't mention or someone didn't ask you about?
I got to tell you, when I'm talking to people, when I'm explaining my story and doing my events, I have no nervousness. I have no anxiety. I have never experienced stage fright since that moment. And I look at this whole situation and I know I have a big job to do, right? But everyone does. Everyone has their thing. But it's not a challenge. It doesn't look like it's insurmountable. And every morning it's exciting. Every single day is exciting. And if you are a walk-in, I highly encourage you, embrace it. Take the time to understand who you are, even if you're like me and you have no memories of the event, of where you're from. They're going to come online. It's incredible. It's just incredible.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I do have one more thing that I want you to talk about.
Okay, sure.
One of the comments that you make is about being the new human. And, I'm really starting to see that. Now, some people have sent me emails and they've told me that the energetic body of the human is shifting and that no longer does a chakra system apply.
Ooh.
Other people have said that we have more chakras that are coming on, but some people just firmly believe that if we don't have the chakras, that we just cannot have our energy bodies fed. So everybody kind of has their own thing when it comes to chakras. But now I know with you, you said that you don't have a root chakra. Can you talk just a minute about that? I just think that's fascinating. And I just want people to hear more about that.
Yeah, it is a little odd. People are like, well, how do you ground? Well, when I go to ground, and I kind of don't need to anymore, but I literally see this chain and I tell people, imagine the chain on a cruise ship, the anchor, if you will. That chain is connected actually directly into my heart and into the earth. And when I see this, it's actually all crystals. And if you zoom in closely, it literally looks like it's pulling the planet that just sits there and vibrates. So for me, the way they explain it, the term of the new human, in a short time, some other gifts are going to come online that will be physically seen by others. And when this happens, it will shift the consciousness of the human to realize we can do that. They will physically see with their eyes things that will shift those internal pieces. So the new human is coming online, but sometimes they got to see it, smell it, taste it. And that's really what we're all here for. So I'll be that example for them to look up to and say, wow, I can do that. And in fact, they can. As I mentioned, they said in about 2 years, I'll begin training people, whatever that may mean. And again, I've surrendered and I don't need those answers.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I do look forward to having you back tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye,
Thanks.
everyone.